Well, getting these legs back on the Vernon was no small feat. This lathe is significantly heavier than the Hendey bed. The Hendey bed, it's 12-inch versus a 14-inch. Doesn't sound like much difference, but boy, I'll tell you, this Vernon lathe's bed is very hefty. And so I've got the Harbor Freight shop crane there, and it's almost impossible to pick it up without it kind of like going squirrely on you, because you get a lot of weight with the quick change gearbox on that side and everything. So I was able to lift up one end, bolt on one leg. Then the plan was I moved the sling down this end to lift this end. The problem was I can't get the sling any further near the end here without my feet or legs on the crane getting underneath here. I should have repositioned the crane, but instead what I did was I had this old house jack, you know, the kind that you put a post on to jack up houses. I've got a couple of those here and there. I'm glad I never got rid of those, because that just came in real handy. So I used that to lift this up, and I got this other leg on. I was just in the middle of putting the bolts on when I decided to fire up the camera. Hey everybody, I've been down here working on the cleaning the Vernon lathe the past couple of nights. Taking a break from the Wells Index debacle because, well, I haven't decided yet how soon I want to tackle trying to fix that spindle. Right now I've got a post out on the Practical Machine Shop, Practical Machinist website's forum, requesting if anybody's got a good used spindle. It's kind of a long shot, but I figured I got to take that shot. And I think tomorrow I might put a call into Wells Index and inquire whether or not they have a used spindle, and also nail down a price on that new one, just because I got a ballpark price of around $850, but I'm just curious what it would actually amount to. So anyways, been working on cleaning this up. Get you some shots of the back here where I did most of the cleaning already. I guess we could start here with the ways. There's your before and your after. This end over here has got more flash rust on it, but so didn't this, and this cleaned up okay. And then as you get further down this way, it seemed to have more oil and grease buildup on it that protected it more. So I've still got some cleaning to do on this rear way here. And then all down inside here, I've got to clean this. On the really heavy stuff, I've been using a putty knife. This tray was chock full of gunk, and I actually had to remove the tray, which also acts as the cover to the gearbox there, because there was so much swarf and stuff stuck underneath the edge of it that I couldn't get to. And not only that, but now that I've got that off and I look at those gears, I'm going to clean those gears without taking them out. Then the back, it's the back cleaned up pretty well, and a lot of the paint is peeling off. So as I clean, some paint came with it, and so it looks like there's like the typical cheap machine gray paint somebody put on here at some point, and under that there's black. I don't know if that was the original color or not. You can see over here a lot of it came off. Actually, it looks like this area might have never gotten the gray paint. This is where the bracket, a large bracket attaches to and bolts on, that holds the supports the gearbox. So the overhead gearbox, I should say, that converts the V-belt drive from the electric motor to the flat belt drive for the cone pulley. But we're getting there. Again, the plan here is to abandon the original plan of painting this green color and just clean this up and get it running so I can use it. Can't get over how long it's taking me to clean this thing. I've been working on this for about an hour now, and it's showing some progress, but I got a long ways to go. Down inside here between the ways, there's so much buildup of grime on the casting that I'm actually starting out with an old putty knife and scraping off the really heavy accumulation, which is probably some spots it seems like it's a 1/16 of an inch thick. Getting as much of that as I can off. And then I'm going at it with a scrub brush and cleaner. And then I've been messing around with the ways some, cleaning that up. And I've got some spots here where there's some dark patches visible, and that's rust. That the only way I'm going to get that out is if I get much more abrasive with it. And if I do that, I'm going to start removing more metal from the ways that I want to mess with. So I'm going to leave some of these areas. As long as they're smooth, I'm not going to worry about them. There's a big patch down here at the end, but the reality is tailstock's going to ride down here, so I'm not as concerned about that. There's a number 13 engraved right here, where typically you would find the serial numbers. And there are no, it's not that it's dirty and I can't see it, it's clear as a bell. It's only a 1/3. So this lathe is lucky number 13. Now the question is, could a serial number be that low? And I'm thinking it's quite possible that this literally is a serial number, and that this is literally the 13th lathe off the line. Because the production numbers on these lathes couldn't have been high. Just try and find information on Vernon lathe. Vernon Manufacturing Company of Worcester, Massachusetts, not to be confused with the Vernon Company out in California that made I think mill drills and stuff. And most of what you're going to find is probably references to my videos. So it's a pretty rare bird. So I'm going to double check and make sure that's not an 18. Well, without a doubt, it is a 13. It's not an 18. So this is lucky number 13. Why is it lucky? It's lucky to still be in existence because very low production numbers, I think, on this lathe, just because the company was in business for such a short while. Can't find any other examples of this lathe in existence anywhere. It's not like the Hendeys. Now, so it's 10 minutes to 10 in the evening. I'm getting ready to go upstairs and call it a night, but let me show you something else. Just thought it'd be interesting to show you guys. This is a section of the ways right here that is covered up by the headstock assembly that was scraped by the factory. So that is what the ways on this lathe looked like. That's the scraping on the ways that helps retain oil. And this entire top way here and on the rear there would have had that pretty pattern all the way down it when it left the factory. It was probably a pretty beautiful sight, and you can actually just make out a little bit on the back way here too, in the same location underneath. That was all under the headstock originally, so that never got a chance to get worn. And then of course as soon as you come out here where the working part of it is, it's non-existent now. It's long since gone. You know, a lot of wear on the ways. How bad? Not going to really know until we put it back together and start doing some turning and see how it acts. The other thing down here, what I couldn't see underneath all that dirt and rust, but once I cleaned it, I don't know how well it's going to show up here on the video. Little half circles and little circles and half circles all in this area here that look to me like somebody was using this little section right here as an anvil occasionally. Unfortunately, I don't know what they were doing. Other than that, I don't see any major, you know, you got your typical, all your nicks over here. This is all right in the area here up near the chuck would come out to about right here. So right here, chances are what I'm looking at is I'm looking at probably some miscues with a hacksaw, miscues with a file occasionally, maybe that kind of thing. That's probably what these little divots and chunks are, cuts. Alright, like I said, I'm going to call it a night for tonight. Well, I was just about to move the headstock to the Vernon lathe down the bulkhead stairs by sliding it down there, and then it occurred to me that if I just take a couple screws out, I can take this guard off and this guard off, and those two cast pieces could easily get damaged if something goes wrong, so I'm going to take those off. I just used the ATV and hooked the chain on, put my ramp in there, and used the ATV to arrest the slide, and just slowly slid it down. Now I get it at the bottom. I'll unhook it, get the ATV out of here, close this up, and then I can use the shop crane down there to move it around. I think I did a pretty good job of cleaning this this cone of gears, so to speak, this stack of gears for the quick change box. And I just had a pan underneath there and kept spraying it down and scrubbing it. Got everything out of there. Of course, you know, they're not really clean, but just going to be saturated with oil again soon enough. But I got any big chunks of dirt or swarf that might be in there out of there. So now I'm going to take this big casting off right here and get to these gears. I just want to make sure there aren't any good sized chunks of swarf or anything that might be getting in there and getting into that gear train. And not only that, but I'll be able to take this over to the parts washer and clean the inside of that housing. So I'm betting that's probably got a lot of goop in it. I also wanted to kind of check out and see what's going on here, what the deal is with this here, because I've got this nut on the end here, but then right here on the very end, I don't know if you can really see that on the camera, but there's a hole right there that leads me to believe that that's for oiling this shaft. I think this shaft is hollow, and I think you're supposed to feed oil in there, and it would go down the shaft and find, you know, there's a spot in the shaft where there's going to be a hole that's going to let the oil get out and probably lubricate gears that are riding on there. But that looks like something's broken off of there. I think on some of these old lathes you actually end up with a little tube that sticks up and would have a little cap on the end of it that you would put oil in, kind of like on the headstock for the Hendey's got some of those. And I'm wondering if that's what broke off of there. So the big question is that just like a fitting that I could take out of there and replace? I don't know. But for right now, I'm just going to concentrate on taking that off. I've got these two screws, one here and one up here. I've got them loose, and that's not moving. But then I've got this big screw on the end here, and then I've got this big nut. So I think that, well, the nut's obviously going to have to come off, so I think I'll take that off for starters. Let's see, this looks like a washer that might come off. Yeah, there's a big spacer, thick washer. So that sure looks like that little piece sticking out there that had something on it that broke off. Unfortunately, that looks like that's actually part of that threaded shaft right there. Alright, doesn't look like I have to unscrew that screw. This is coming off now. I missed a step here because this is not looking like it's going to clear. Yeah, it doesn't want to clear that gear. Alright, looks like maybe you do have to take this screw out, and I think the screw might actually be the whole shaft that supports the gear that this lever moves in and out. Boy, it's hurt my back. Back's been bugging me. there's a large gear on the end of this lower shaft right here. And that gear is not allowing the gear behind it to pass it. Oh, they took the bottom out far enough. That looks like maybe now I can. Well, that's tricky to get off. Getting past this gear was the problem. Boy, yeah, I'm glad I took that off. There's some real crud in there. Yeah, the lighting's not so great over here, but put this lamp on it just to give you guys a look and show you what I'm looking at here. That's the kind of crud that I'm glad that glad I took that cover off so I can clean all this out, clean it all up. And let's see, with that cover off, this gear might even be able to be removed and washed in the parts washer easier than trying to wash it on that. You can see the inside of the housing here is pretty dirty too. Here's a little tube right here for oiling. That's just a little hole on the outside I barely noticed before, but so that right there would spill oil onto looks like that would spill oil onto looks like that would spill oil right onto this gear maybe. Alright, just rotated this around and found the set screw right here. Yeah, that's going to clean up real nice in the parts washer, as opposed to just spraying and spraying and spraying on here. Got a big spacer here that goes behind that. I'm going to leave that on there for now. A lot of oil on the shaft here. That's nice, good to see. Like that. There's a hole right here that looks like oil should get into somehow. Wonder how oil gets in that. Very interesting. Not sure. Let's see. How about this gear here? Why isn't that turning? Huh. This is just an intermediate gear, I thought. If this is just an intermediate gear between... This gear is driven off the gear on the bottom of the headstock assembly. And then that drives this gear. And then this gear drives the gear I just took off. So this should freewheel right now. And it's seized. That's strange. Well, these are going to come off easy enough, so let's take these off. Alright, so we've got a nut. There must be another cover I have that I already took off. Looks like I put this nut on backwards. It's got a bevel to it. I bet you the bevel faces out. Alright, so we got a nut. Thin washer. Smaller diameter thick washer. Large diameter thick washer. This gear that's got a pin that engages that pin, that hole. This gear with this big bushing in it. All right, this nut here is so you can move this shaft up and down in this slot, because I think you can change this gear to a different gear for a different thread on the threading chart. You get a quick change gearbox and you can get almost all of your threads out of that, but there's one gear that you change, and what it does is it gives you one of the thread selections that's not actually used all the time. I want to say maybe it's for a tapered thread. Hold on a second, let me see if I recall. So our little chart right here basically tells you the story, and you'll notice that it basically shows that on the stud you have a 43 tooth gear, or 48, can't quite make it out. on the stud for all of these. And then this is the, what does that say? Sector gear. Okay, again, 48, 48, 48, 69. So that's the one. That's the odd gear. I don't know if I got that in the box with all the other stuff with the Vernon or not. But that one gear would come as a spare with the lathe. And you can get basically all of these feed rates and threads per inch with what's on the lathe now, but you've got to change this one gear on the sector gear. You've got to change it from a 48 tooth to a 69 tooth to get this last bank right here. And you'll notice the bank's pretty much blank except for one feed right there. And that magic number is, looks like 11.5 threads per inch. So 11.5 threads per inch. I think somewhere I read that's for turning a tapered threads. Does that make sense? Tapered pipe thread, I think that's what I was thinking of.